today's lessons, today introduction to leadership, as well as a brief idea about what we are going to do in 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus. Then we will have one Bible character study. Okay, so the first lesson I have designed it as discern and develop leaders. So this is very important. So when you talk about leadership, many places, many institutions, many organizations, many denominations, many local churches, suddenly they lose leaders. Maybe the leader died, or maybe the leader migrated to another country. So suddenly there are no leaders. Let us see the biblical example. If you see, Moses appointed Joshua his successor, but Joshua did not appoint anybody. So Joshua failed to groom leaders. So only 400 years there was instability in the nation of Israel. So 400 years, you can see Judges. The book of Judges is the 400 years history of the nation of Israel. One judge comes, then he dies, then Israel commits sin and somebody encourages them. They cry unto the Lord. Lord raises another judge. So it goes on and on. It is like a cyclic process. So the reason is Joshua did not discern and develop leaders as Moses developed Joshua. So it happens in many places. Even if you see some of the churches, some of the organizations that were doing very good, but the lack of leaders or lack of right kind of leaders make those organizations, institutions to go into a fading mode, or they don't shine. They start becoming less and less influential. So discerning and developing leaders is everybody's responsibility. So I may be doing a small ministry, maybe a Sunday school teacher, but I should be training somebody to be the next Sunday school teacher. Or I may be a youth leader. So forever you may not be young, you'll grow old. That means before you grow old, you have to have the next youth leader. So the same way, any level of leadership, we have to discern what is God's plan for the future and develop leaders. So Paul discerned and developed Timothy and Titus. He had other leaders also. Silas, one of his traveling friends. Luke was one of his friends. John Mark, he brought him and he shaped him again. So we see all the leaders who were with him were shaped or were groomed by Paul. So what is leadership? So when we talk about leadership, what are we talking about? So the world talks leadership in different assumptions, different definitions. So in the world, people think if you have power, then you are a leader. So power and authority over people, power and authority over resources, power and authority over other things, maybe an institution. So some people think leadership is position. So what is your designation? Oh, you are the middle level manager or the senior manager, or you are the director of the organization. You are the national director or country director or zonal director or the president of an organization, vice president of organization. So people think if you have the position, then you are a leader. Then there are third idea, if you are a rich person, if you have lot of possession, lots of money, then people think you are a leader because you command a lot of resources. So they think you are a leader. But Bible doesn't say that. Bible teaches leadership is influence. Leadership is influence. Leaders can influence other people. Influence other people for good. There are leaders who influence others for evil. There are young people who become drug addicts because a bad person influenced them. An alcoholic father makes his children maybe alcoholics. So that means he's a bad influence. But leadership is good influence. So the influence that changes people. So when you look at Moses, did Moses have power? He did not have any power. He was one of the slaves in that context. Did he have position? Was he an opposition leader in Egypt? No, he didn't have any position. Did he have any possession? Nothing. He had only a staff which he carried every time. That's all. But he was given the authority, a call to release the nation of Israel, the children of Israel, from Egyptian slavery. So the influence he had over Egypt, over Pharaoh of Egypt, over the children of Israel was from God. So we have to understand leadership has to come from God. Leadership is a calling. Leadership is a commitment. So leadership is not power, position, or possession. So what we have to do is 4 Ds for leaders. We say we have to discern leaders. We have to discover their talents, abilities. We have to develop their skills, capacities, and we have to deploy them. So what we do with leaders? First of all, we have to discern. We have to ask the Lord, Lord, who are the leaders whom I can mentor, whom I can guide? So God gives discernment. So the discernment is not from human perspective. God called Peter. So he said, you are like a grass, but you will become a rock. So leaders will be like grass, but you have to make them rock. So that is what God called for leadership. We have to discern. God's hand is upon this young man. God's hand is upon this young woman. He or she could be a great leader. So that discernment is essential. After discernment, we have to work with them. We have to discover their talents, discover their personality, discover their aptitude, discover their spiritual gifts, discover the call of God in their life. So then we have to develop them. Okay, they are having skills to teach. Then we have to help them to know more, get more knowledge. They are good in storytelling. That means they are good for children ministry. So train them, develop them, so they can tell stories in a better way by using puppets. Give them training in using puppets. So we have to develop their talents, their gifts, their skills, so that they become good leaders. Then you have to deploy them. So you have to deploy them means use them. So deploying the leaders is very essential. We'll be seeing in detail. So the book of Psalms, chapter 78, verses 70 to 72, is a very, very important Bible verse. So it is a leadership passage. He chose David his son and took him from the sheepfolds, from following the nursing eaves. He brought him to shepherd Jacob, his people, Israel, his inheritance. With upright heart, he shepherded them. I guided them with his skillful hand. So it is very interesting. So we see at least 3 important things. One is, so God called him. God chose him. God took the initiative. So God had an eye on David. So God has his eyes on some of the people whom we can choose. So first thing is they need to have a God. God should choose them. The second thing is we look at the character. So it says with the upright heart. So upright heart means he was righteous person. He was a good person. So he was a person of integrity. He was a man of truthfulness. He did not have hypocrisy. So only God chose him. So character is important. We know call is important. The second thing is character is very important. So the third thing is with the skillful hand he led. Skillful hand. That means we can say it is competence. The gifting, the talents, the abilities, the diligence. So the way that he handles resources, stewardship, all these are skillful hand. So biblical understanding of leadership is we need call, we need character, we need competence. So without call, a person cannot be a leader. He may have a call, but if the person doesn't have a character, that is integrity of heart, then he cannot be a Christian leader. So in Christian ministry, leaders have to be righteous and truthful. Okay, he has a call. He's a very pious man, noble man, very righteous man, very courteous man. Good, but he needs competence. So competence means leadership skills he needs, ministry skills he needs. So if he doesn't have knowledge of the Bible, then he cannot be a great leader. If he doesn't have the communication skills, he cannot be a great leader. So if he doesn't have ministry skills, he cannot be a great leader. If he's a counselor, he needs counseling skills. So if he's doing children ministry, he needs puppet showing skills. So if he wants to be in teaching ministry, he has to have a thorough knowledge of the Bible. Otherwise, he cannot be a good leader. So we have to focus on all these three: call, character, and competence. So then we see, how do you discern the leaders? How do you choose leaders? So we have to be guided by the Holy Spirit. And then we should have some parameters. So what kind of parameters? So parameters can be general discipline, diligence. So these are some of the things we can observe in a person. So one time I went to the church to speak on Sunday morning. So I was there early, 15 minutes early before the church began. So the pastor was there. Then he was saying, my son will be the next pastor. So now he is helping me in worship and other things. So the morning, 9 o'clock, the church service started. So the pastor was praying. He was praying for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So from the beginning of the service. So then I observed his son had not come. So the one who was supposed to lead the songs was not there. So the pastor has to drag this prayer time as much as possible so that his son comes in. So if I was the person who chooses with this parameter of indiscipline, parameter of no preparation, parameter of coming late, no punctuality. So this fellow does not fit to be a leader. He may be pastor's son, but he doesn't have the discipline or character, and he cannot develop competence to be a leader. So many people are like that. So we need to have parameters. So how diligent he is, how disciplined he is, how courteous he is, so how he reports back. So these are some of the parameters. So if you can see Moses and Joshua, you can see a lot of these parameters being in their life. So discovering their potential. So discovering their potential temperament, how they are. Some are reserved, some are open. So some may be very reflective. That means they are very thinking. Some may be speaking a lot, but not thinking much. So God uses all of them. Then abilities, what kind of abilities they have. So what kind of skills they have. Can they ride a scooter? Or they cannot. So they will walk everywhere and go. So do they have the basic skills that is essential to live in this world? So do they know how to handle a computer, how to use a smartphone? So their attitude, what is their attitude? Some people have negative attitude. So if you say do something, oh, this is not possible. Immediate answer is this is not possible. Then what are the gifts? What are the spiritual gifts God has graciously given them? Then the emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence means how strong they are emotionally. When they face a crisis, what they do. When they are put in a situation, do they get angry? Do they get irritated? Do they get frustrated? Are they patient, long suffering? All those things. Then spiritual intelligence, that is spiritual disciplines. So then you have to develop leaders. Okay, we are recruited leaders. We think God has chosen this fellow. So this fellow has, these are the positive things, these are the good things. So these good things can be developed. Then we work on them. So we see what will be the best role he will play. So when you look at a leader, you have to look at them, not what they are now. So you have to ask the Lord, 10 years from now, this fellow, how will he be? Or 20 years from now, what he will be? Or 30 years from now, how will this person be? So we have to prepare that person to be in that place, not what he is today. So you are investing in the person to lead something for the next 30 years. So that should be our vision. Otherwise, we won't invest in them. If we are looking only the present situation, many times we will be defeated. So then what we see is, so deploying leaders. Yes, we are discerning the call. We discover their talents. We develop their capacities. Now what to do with them? You have to deploy them. So we have to create opportunities for them. So how do you create opportunities? So you have to create opportunities in some of the places where they can work or where they can do. So for example, if there is a, if you keep training them to be teaching or preaching, so you cannot give the whole Sunday service morning to them. So you can look for opportunities. Maybe one home they have a small house gathering. So you can start from there. You create an opportunity for them. Instead of you teaching, so you allow others to teach. So that way you give them opportunities. Then creating platforms. Creating platform means maybe you are invited to speak somewhere. So what you can do, so I am unable to come. Can you accept my friend to be there? Or you may both go there. Give opportunity. Maybe you have 10 sessions. Give one session to them so that they can learn. So that is what exposure. Exposure is allowing them to go and watch various things. Maybe there is a conference in Thailand, simple, so that they get experience, exposure. Then give them connections. So you can tell them, so you are good in this, so you should meet this person. You should be connected with this person. Maybe you have to read his book so that you can grow. So in that way, we are helping leaders to be deployed. So then we come to this study that we are going to do. So with this in mind, we are going to study our portion, that is Christian leadership. The first Timothy, second Timothy, and Titus. So they are called as pastoral letters. So they are leadership letters. So why we are here? So I'm not a pastor. Why should I study leadership? So some people may think, why it is pastoral leader? Pastoral means, pastor means it is shepherd. Pastor is a shepherd. So when we talk about pastoral leaders, we are saying shepherd leaders. So all leaders are pastoral leaders in Christian community. So if you take, for example, Sunday school teacher. So Sunday school teacher is the pastor of 15 children who come to her class every week. So she plays the role of a shepherd for the 15 sheep. God gives him for the next 3 years. So a youth leader is pastor of the young people. Maybe 25 young people come every week for a fellowship. So he is pastoring, shepherding those people. So all of us, like husband is the leader of the home. He is the shepherd of his wife and children. So wife is also a leader of home. She is the shepherd of husband and children. So we are all shepherds in some context. Maybe only 2 people are with us, maybe 5 people are with us, maybe 30, 40 people are with us. So we are called to be pastors, pastoral leaders. So Paul writes to them, Timothy and Titus are treated as spiritual sons. So they are shaped, and he writes it is intimate personal letter. It was not for public reading. So we have to understand that. So like the letter to Ephesus. So Ephesians is not a personal letter. It is a public letter. It has to be read in the church. So Corinthians, it was a public letter to be read in the church at Corinth. Romans is a public letter read to be in the church in Rome. But here it is a personal letter written to Timothy and Titus. Another personal letter is there to Philemon. So these letters are precious because a lot of personal details we understand. So First Timothy, how to pastor a church. So that helps us to understand what is local church, how local church should function. Then Second Timothy is a call to faithfulness, how he can be a faithful leader. So in that he talks about the world, he talks about the Bible, how the scripture is inspiring all those things. Then Titus, teaching and living the truth. So Titus is sent on a mission. He has to go to the island of Crete, which is very, very culturally, they are not good people, culturally very sinful people. Among them, the church has been formed. So how Titus has to teach the new believers, appoint new elders in that context. So that is also a helpful